Alright, for this assignment, what you're going to do is you're going to create a balance sheet on Excel and then use that to organize expenses from different categories and make a pie chart out of that. So the two things you're going to have to download, you'll have this balance sheet document, and this is where it kind of goes through the directions for filling out the balance sheet. And here is your question you're going to answer as well. So you will submit this document because there's a reflection piece that you need to fill out. Okay, so this will get submitted. You also have an Excel sheet that you'll submit as well. So when we go through this, this is basically the kind of details as to what goes where and what you need to do. So let's talk about this section first here. So here are the chart. Here is a chart with all the expenses on it. Just kidding, all the income. This is the one with all the expenses. So you can see that they've made a certain amount of money here. They're spending a certain amount of money. There's some blank spaces for the totals. You need to fill those out. Now what you need to do for that is use a formula. So the formula, I'll just kind of do it over here. If I have the numbers 6, 7, and 8, if I want to add those up, the formula is equals sum, open parentheses, and you highlight what you want to sum up. So 6, 7, and 8 add up to 21. So you're going to want to use that formula of sum to figure out what this total is for the total income, and what that total is for the total expenses. Once you've completed that part, then you have all these expenses, and they're all different categories. Okay, so here's the different categories, the legend here. We need to figure out how much they spent on each one. So just as an example, let's do dining. To figure out the total dining, you're going to put equals first. You're going to add up all the individual dining categories. So if I look at the category here, Texas Roadhouse, that's dining. So I click on the 41, and I have G7. I want to add the 45, add 56. I'm adding everything together, that all the numbers that are part of the dining category. And plus Ruth Chris plus that one. Yeah, so if I look at these, I should have everything in there. That's how much money we spent on dining in this month of January. And then if you're going to do another category, we could do one like kids. That's going to equal your 70 for that. Okay, one thing I want you to make sure you're doing is don't just add these up in the calculator and type in the number. Actually, make sure that when you click on the cell, there's a formula in there. Alright, so we want to make sure you're doing that and not just typing in the answer. Alright, so you're going to fill out all these boxes. I'm just going to make up numbers for now, just for the heck of it. So the 45 to that. Okay, so let's say these are your numbers here. And for the total, that would be the same thing you did with these two. Okay, so you do sum, add up that column there. All right, and the last thing on this sheet that you need to complete for now is the net monthly income. So you have your total income here, total expenses here. How are you going to use those to find that number? Just think of a formula you'd use for that. Okay, at this point I want to kind of remind you how to do a pie chart in Excel. So if I go back to this, I've completed all this stuff at this point. And this is a note just to make sure you use a formula when they ask you to use a formula. Don't use a calculator and type in the answer. I want you to use Excel to figure this out. Okay, and I will be able to tell. I'll download your sheet when I grade it so I can tell if you use a formula or not. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to make a pie chart to depict what percent of Mr. Player's money is going to which category. And this information is also in section 7 notes if you want to look back at that. But let me show you kind of a quick way here to do that. So here's the money that needs to go in the pie chart. I'm going to highlight my categories and my dollar amounts and go insert pie chart right here. 2D pie chart. There you go. Alright, so I can see that I have the different categories here. They're labeled down here. I want to see percents. So I'm going to go to style and I can change what chart type I want. I like this one a little bit better. You have lots of options. I'm gonna pick that one. And then from there you can make it a little bit bigger if you want. Sometimes you can move boxes to make it a little bit nicer. You have to double click on it and then you can drag it out. There you go. So now you can kind of spread these out a little bit. You want to make sure that your text never overlaps. That looks really shoddy. Yeah, well, this looks kind of nice. I got it all out there. Before you finish, I'm not going to do this right now, but chart title, give it a different title. Don't call it chart title. All right, and so here we go. I have my different categories. Once you have that, you're going to go back to this document, and it says, write a few sentences on Mr. Player's spending habits. So obviously my chart is made up, because I made up half the numbers. You're going to have a different looking chart than I do. But I could say, based on this, 28% went to rent, 26% to dining. So we could say, based on that, what percent went to those. Be very quantitative in your answer. We could say only 3% go to utilities, things like that. So just kind of give some details as to what the majority of the money is going to. Maybe if two are the same, you can point that out. We could mention that he doesn't really spend very much on his kids, only 6%. Okay, going back to this now. Another important question is there a category he's spending too much in? Okay, so you can look back at this and say, well, I think that there's 14% on groceries. I think that's too much for groceries. He needs to, start going to Sam's Club or something, or start going to Walmart and not buy as expensive groceries. Or maybe you could say, entertainment's a little high here. He needs to cut back on, whatever it was he was doing too much of. All right, so I want to talk about that, and then the last part of the reflection is what lifestyle changes could he make to increase his savings? All right, so going back to this, then maybe you could say, his rent's too high. He needs to find a cheaper apartment, or he spends too much on dining. He needs to cut back on that. Okay, so looking at the chart, try to think what would be the best way if he wanted to save money. What's costing him too much? How can he cut back? So really take time to make a good reflection piece there. Right, so you're going to submit this Excel sheet. So once you have all this on here, save it, submit that. You're also going to submit this document here, which really only has the one answer, but I want this document as well because I want to hear your reflection. All right, so have fun with that assignment.